Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rose. Usually I talk a lot about AVPD, which is avoidant personality disorder. I'd like to thank everyone for returning if you're coming back. I know I only have like 350 subscribers or something like that, but if you're one of those people, thank you for coming back. And if you're new to the channel, thanks for clicking on the video. If you give me a like, that would be super great. Helps me out with the algorithm. I want to also share that I have a couple other things going on. So number one, we have a Facebook group, and I just started it recently and been getting a little bit more active on the Facebook group, and I'll link that down below. There's only like 15 people in there right now, but when I mentioned it, there was only 2 of us. So it's getting a little bit bigger. So if you guys want to join that, click the link below, and we just kind of talk about, I guess, how we're feeling that day, and kind of share a little bit of our stories with other people who are kind of going through the same thing. So if you guys want to join, just click the link below. All right. Also, I wanted to say I'm going to talk a little bit about Audible, which is a online audiobook platform. And so, and I really believe in it. I really enjoy audible.com. And so I definitely recommend it. And because of that, I have an affiliate link below. So if you click on the link and you get an Audible subscription, I do get a kickback for that. So just so that's out in the open, I don't want to like not be honest, I guess. So, but audible.com/Rose, that's my affiliate link. So yeah, now that that's out of the way, I just wanted to summarize a little bit. This video is about kind of how I got to where I am right now. So you might look at me now and think that maybe I'm not that avoidant, or maybe it's not really a problem that I actually have, but I'm starting now to really figure out how to get past it and how to kind of trick my mind into not seeing it as a problem, it not being a problem for me, being avoidant. I've figured out little kind of loopholes, ways to get around being avoidant now. But I didn't start that way. I started as a very scared individual, very worried about what everybody thought about me. I always thought everybody was very critical of me, very negative of me. And now I'm at the point where I feel like I've figured out how to cope a little bit with the whole disorder itself. And so I kind of wanted to share really the basic way that I was able to do that. And that is, I figured out that all of the answers that I needed were one of 2 places. Either they were within me or they were without me. Like, not within me. You know, they were inside or they were outside. It's only 2 places that they can be. And outside, I can find them in a few different ways, but by educating myself. So that would be through listening to books, reading books, listening to lectures, getting some sort of education, which at the time I couldn't afford. Whatever the case may be, I was going to be able to find the answers in something that had been written before by someone who was more knowledgeable than I am. Or I was going to be able to find the answer within myself. One of those 2 things seemed like they were going to be true. So I started doing 2 things. I started reading books a lot, and I started meditating. And I started trying to work on my own mind. So what this video is about are those 2 things. Reading, how to read, how to find free books, how to read faster, how to comprehend faster, and how to work on yourself and finding the answers within. So that's what this video is about. If you're interested in those 2 things, then keep watching. Also, check out my new outfit. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because I don't really have that set up, but I thought this is a perfect place to wear it because I don't know where else I would wear it besides like a coven meeting, but I really love this dress. So you guys get to see it. Anyway, so I'm going to start with meditation because I think it's kind of the easier one to talk about in a way. So when people hear meditation, they usually think, well, I'm not able to calm my mind. And you really have to think to yourself, that's exactly the point. You don't know how to calm your mind, and that is a problem for you. It's a problem for everybody. Everybody, 7 billion people on the planet. Most of us don't know how to do that. Most of us have that. I've heard it explained as like the clapping monkey doll. If you've ever seen those, it's like a little mechanical wind-up doll, and you do it, and then it's like this monkey, and he just claps. And that's, I've heard your mind described in that way. It's just like this annoying little noise that's going off all the time, whereas you try to sit there and you try to be quiet, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, what about that one thing that happened 20 years ago? And you can't shut that off. And it's infuriating, right? Especially when you're sitting there and you're trying to be calm, and you're trying to tell yourself, I'm going to stop thinking now. And your mind's like, well, no, we're not going to do that. We don't know how to do that. So you have to learn how to do that. Also, I want to side note, I was told by a friend of mine who is a religious person that her faith, they don't allow meditation because they think that's when the devil enters your brain. If that's what you believe, then that's what you believe. I'm not trying to judge you in any type of way. I disagree, but believe what you want. It's fine with me. I'm not going to judge you. So don't be offended by these tips if you're religious, is all I'm trying to say. But as far as the meditation goes, I think that it's really like the practice itself, taking the time out for yourself every day. It's saying like, no, this is going to be my 10 minutes where I'm just going to go inside my own mind. I'm going to take the time out to just try not to do literally anything. You're trying to not think for the entire time. That's what you're trying to do. That is the goal. Most likely, you won't be able to reach that goal. You're just probably not going to be able to. I've only been able to do it. I've been trying to meditate regularly. I do it a couple times a week, and I really should do it a lot more than I do. But when I do it, I rarely reach the moment where I feel like I've stopped thinking about things. But when I do, it's amazing. It's like a moment of just pure bliss. And it's so pure, and it's so poignant that it sticks with you for a long time. Just that millisecond where you're just like, just floating in your own consciousness for just that moment, that bliss that you feel in just that tiny, tiny, tiny millisecond is enough to carry you over to the next one whenever you're able to find it. And I've had really intense experiences meditating, and that's coming from a person who started out not being able to meditate at all. And I've had to do certain things to trick myself, like I do guided meditations. I usually could only do 10 minutes a day because that's all I could like force myself to sit down and do. So I started looking up 10-minute meditations on YouTube, and I would just listen to those. Also, I have a YouTube Red account, so if I am talking about any of these affirmations or any of these things, if you're getting interrupted by commercials all the time, it's probably not going to work as well. It's probably going to be really annoying, actually. I would assume. I hate commercials. So I have a YouTube Red account, so I don't ever listen to commercials. I just listen to stuff like just straight through. So it's less annoying on my end if I don't have commercials. Anyway. But yeah, so... And if you're trying to meditate and you're not very good at it, I highly recommend looking up just random videos on meditation, because there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I've read a few different books on meditation, and there's the couple that I read recently were Tibetan Buddhism, and they were about how they meditate and how they do yoga and things like that. But I know that there's different, like in India, they have different ones. There's different styles all over the kind of eastern side of the world. So, and the rest of the world as well. You know, it's not like only people in Asia have figured out how to sit down and stop thinking, but but just being able to find what works for you and taking the journey in order to find what does work for you is super, super beneficial. Because if you can find that moment where you're just purely happy, where you're just purely let go. It's like taking a brain step. I don't know how to explain it, you know? Like you can, like a journey of 1,000 steps begins with a single friggin' step, or however it goes. It's kind of the same thing with your meditation. It's kind of the same thing with enlightenment or with knowledge. You just have to start taking tiny little steps, and meditation is that way. Like I said, I don't sit down to meditate for, you know, I've been trying to do 24 minutes because that's what I read in a book on Tantra meditation. So I've been trying to do that, and that's been cool. But like I said before, I was just doing 10 minutes, and I was able to reach certain points in that, like, where if I had known that I was going to have that experience that time during that meditation, I would have gone longer. I would have stayed there longer, but as it was, I had to come back, you know. It's a really beneficial practice, and I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend that if you're the type of person that says, I can't meditate because I can't quiet my mind, you're one of the people who should definitely be meditating. You should try it. And even if you can only do 5 minutes, even if all you're doing is, so there's other types of meditation besides just sitting down and meditating. You can also be sitting on public transit and you're surrounded by a bunch of people, and all you're doing is you're just sitting there, not staring at your phone or anything, just focusing on your breath, calming your mind, letting go, taking a moment for yourself. If you can do that, and you can figure out how to calm yourself and center yourself and just be present and mindful and there, and you just let everything else go. You're just there. If you can acquire that at any point, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You don't necessarily have to be sitting there with all your chakras aligned. There's other ways that you can practice it. And the more you read about it, and the more videos you watch on it, and the more you try to learn about it, the better you're going to get at it. Because you can hear something random in a video and then think about it later on during your meditation. It'll pop up in your mind and you'll figure something out. It's really how I started to figure out how to control my own thought processes and control my own fear. And I'm not 100% at it, but I've gotten better at it, and meditation has been really significant in that path, in that journey. So I highly recommend it. I could tell you how I meditate or how to meditate, but I think it's kind of different for everybody. I think you have to find out what works for you. For me, I like guided meditations, and I really like listening to binaural beats. So binaural beat is like a kind of like a music on a wavelength. If you look it up on YouTube, you'll see it. I can link one below as well. I should write that down. I'm gonna link that below. But binaural beats is something that I like to listen to when I meditate, because and I also like to listen to it when I sleep. It'll lull you to sleep in like 5 minutes. Like, it's nothing. My boyfriend he's like, what happened to that music you were listening to last night? And I turned it back on, and we were both like 10 minutes later, we were out. I usually try to watch like Star Trek, which, by the way, I don't know where else to complain about this, but they removed Star Trek Next Generation from Netflix, and I'm really mad about it. Like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to watch now. It's so good. Anyway, so yeah, you should meditate, and unless you have some sort of religious reason not to, in which case I am not judging you. Do your thing. It's fine. Maybe, you know what? Actually, I would like to also say that I think that prayer and fasting, I know a lot of people who are religious. My parents used to do that, and I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Not necessarily the same thing, because I think when you're doing prayer, you're actively not necessarily actively asking for something, because I know a lot of people will preach that a lot of people will pray in asking but not listen for an answer. And I think that that's kind of the meditation side of it. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I know the whole price. I witnessed the prayer and fasting in the church that my parents had me going to when I was a child. I grew up in a very Christian home. So I saw that happen sometimes, prayer and fasting. And as I've grown up and as I've done meditation, I've noticed some similarities there in just like really intense Christian prayer practices. I think it's kind of similar, and go ahead and disagree with me if you want. It's fine. I won't judge you. I'm very open to religious discussion. I actually really love it. So yeah, if you have a comment on that, let me know below. And please also let me know if you have some sort of religious reason not to meditate. Please let me know in the comments below, because I would really like to know. I always am curious about religious traditions, and I heard from some people close to me that that's what they believe. So I'm curious. Anyway, so let me know in the comments below. So second thing that helped me turn kind of my whole mind around was the thought that if I can't find the answer within, I can find the answer without. And in my mind, that was in books. And the easiest way to read books is to listen to them. And I found out that you can listen to books at like triple speed. So I know I've mentioned that in videos before, but I don't think I've mentioned exactly what I do. So I have Audible, and like I said, I recommend Audible to everyone. Now, the reason, this is going to sound a bit like a commercial, but I totally believe it 100%. It's really cool that Audible has, so if you sign up for the subscription, you get a new book every month, and it's like, I want to say it might be $14 a month for this subscription. It might be $11, I'm not sure, but you sign up for the subscription and then you get a free credit every month, and that credit you can put towards any book. So if a book is like a $40 book and you have one credit, you can buy that $40 book for your one credit that you paid with your subscription price. So say your subscription is like $14 or whatever it is, the book is $40, you just paid for a $40 book for $14. So that's how it works out, which is cool. But the other cool thing is that they have the Audibles Plus catalog, which is where you can get a whole bunch of free books. So I have just been sucking these books up. Just like my library, I think I have close to 400 books in it. There's 100 of them that I haven't read, or close to 100, because I just like recently have been like discovering the Plus catalog and just like downloading everything that looks interesting to me. Now, when I say that I thought that the answers might be not in my head, but in a book that I could find, I just started reading. There's different traditions where they use some sort of like intuition to find a thing, right? And so I started doing that with books, and I started just being like, well, I wonder what piques my interest next, and I would just go find that book, and I'd be like, this is like, this stands out to me, I'm going to read this. And so I just started doing that. Whatever stood out to me at any one point in time, I would just start reading that, because I'm like looking for answers. And I think about it now almost like if you're playing a video game and there's like that one thing that it like lights up a little bit more than the things around it, so you know that there's like a clue inside. So I kind of thought of it in a somewhat similar way. You know, whatever stood out to me, I would read that. And so that took me on this journey of where I was reading books on everything. So I started reading about a lot of science. I always wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, so I started reading books about like outer space, physics. I read a lot of Michio Kaku, if you know who that is. He's one of the guys that wrote string theory. So he writes a lot of really cool books about kind of explaining physics to people who are more laymen like me, who I don't know like the mathematics. I didn't go to school for it or anything like that, but he writes a lot of really cool books for people that are on that level. Yeah, and I started reading a lot of philosophy, psychiatry, neuroscience, self-help. I read books on minimalism, self-worth, finance, just anything. I like reading nonfiction books because I feel like a lot of the time when I'm reading newer fiction, I'm kind of wasting time. It's almost like watching TV to me. And if you're a lover of fiction, I don't judge you at all. You're also learning when you are reading fiction, so don't take it as a slight on anyone who likes to read fiction. You're still learning. But for me, I felt like it was more entertainment, so I wanted to read more nonfiction and also classic literature. So I started doing all that, and I found so many answers. Like, I found so many ideas on how to just change who I am and how to learn and how to comprehend and how to automate and just help myself, self-help, right? And it's been such an overwhelming process, and it's learning and how the education has compounded and seeing the changes it's had in my personality and my intelligence. And I'm not trying to brag about myself in any type of way. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm trying to tell people, like, if you look at me and you think that like I look like maybe I know what I'm talking about, or I look like someone that you want to emulate, and I'm not trying to say that's who I am. I'm not saying that, but if that is true, I'm trying to tell you this is how I did it. So I just read everything that I could use to learn something about how to fix what was broken inside of me, and also just to have like a path, because I've never really had a path. I've never really understood like what I want to do with my life, and I think I've been hindered a lot by avoiding just everything, you know, everything from education to people to the whole world. I just stuck myself in my house and didn't do anything unless other people kind of talked me into it. And it got me into so many bad situations. And luckily I was smart enough not to get myself into any like real serious trouble, but I made stupid mistakes I shouldn't have made. And I realized, and honestly, when I talked about therapy in this last video, one of the things I didn't mention was I went through a period and I talked about to my therapist about it for a little while because it was really life-changing. And I've heard that this is kind of a phase of growing up. And I remember when it happened, when I realized how stupid I was, when I realized like how ignorant I've been my entire life. And it's hard because you're like, damn, I've been dumb, you know, like, oh, I started looking at all the mistakes I've made in my life, and I was just like, oh my God, like if I just had made a couple of tweaks, if I had just done this, if I had just started learning this at this time, if I had followed this path or this path or this path, I would be so much farther ahead in my life, but I avoided it. I just sat there and didn't do anything, and I made excuses. And now that I've been reading all these books, it was like a fast track to a self-help education. And I've made small changes in my life that have made huge differences. And I can tell you exactly what those small changes were, and perhaps I will in a future video, but you also need to know that it's different for everybody. Bioindividuality is a thing. Your diet's not going to be exactly the same as mine. Your diet, which is the best for you, is not going to be the same as mine. The workout system that works best for you is not going to be exactly the same as mine. What you are interested in, what you're convicted to do, what your journey has been, it doesn't matter. It's going to be different from mine and everybody else's on the planet. So I can tell you exactly what worked for me, and I'll give you the tips in the next video or in future videos, but you also need to know that you have to follow your own intuition, and you have to figure out what you're interested in. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't have it exact, but I'm paraphrasing, but Albert Einstein was a professor for a while, and he said that he was really frustrated with how the curriculum was laid out, because they would say, like, you know, today you're going to study relativity and tomorrow you're going to study quantum physics, or however they laid it out. And he said he was really frustrated because what he wanted to do was he wanted to follow what the students were interested in, because you learn more when you're interested in what you're learning. If you have no interest in economics, but you have to read a book by, you know, an economist, you're going to fall asleep the whole time. You're not going to remember any of it. So don't do that. Don't read a book because well, you know, someone said that this self-help book was really great and it helped them. Well, did it speak to you in any type of way? Did you read the description and it jumped out at you in some type of way? If it didn't, don't waste your time. You don't have hours of your life to waste reading books that aren't going to speak to you in any type of way. You have to find a book, read the description, and be like, damn, I would like to learn that. And then you just listen to it and listen to it at regular speed. And I highly recommend like increasing your speed just a little bit, like 1.05, 1.1, 1.15. You know, if you do that a little bit every time, you'll be able to read a lot more books. And I swear it's crazy. It's like taking a highway to knowledge, you know, and you might tune some things out, and that's true. Like I've had that problem sometimes. I know a lot of people say that they have the problem with, like, they'll listen to audiobooks and then someone will come over and talk to them and then they'll forget that they have it on, or they'll be doing something. It's very true that it's hard to multitask. So if you're doing certain things, you can't really listen to an audiobook at the same time. But I like to listen to them when I'm like driving, walking my dog, walking my kids to not really walking my kids to school because I like to talk to them, but maybe if, like, you know, I'm out walking, I like to listen to books. I like to listen to books when I'm gardening, cleaning, whatever I'm doing. I like to listen to audiobooks. And also there's a lot of audiobooks for little kids too. So like, I know on Audible, they have like the kids subscription, which I think you can get with the adult subscription. I don't think you have to pay extra, but it has a bunch of books for little kids also. Like, for instance, they had the Wizard of Oz, which is the one that I was listening to with my kids. And also you can find a lot of free audiobooks on YouTube. If you just don't want to pay for the Audible subscription, and I hear you, it's like $15 a month, and that you don't want to pay $15 a month, go to YouTube and just search audiobooks. You can look up audiobooks unabridged, and there's hundreds, there's probably thousands, I don't even know, but a lot of them are free. Some of them are newer books too, which probably not legal, but they're on there. So you might want to listen to them before they're taken down, unless you have a moral problem with that, which I understand as well. But also, if you want to listen to audiobooks and neither of those are an option, because I understand that YouTube also has commercials, go get LibriVox, or there's another app called Libby. I don't use Libby because, if I remember right, it's through the library, and after you listen to the book, you have to return it. And as a hoarder of books, I refuse. So I'm just going to keep whatever book I listen to. Okay, so people are horrified when they see books that I've actually sat down and read, because I will highlight through the whole book, and I'll dog ear, and I'll like write notes in the margin. My boyfriend was like, "That's blasphemy. You should never do that." And I'm like, I have to know this information for later. That's why I keep the notes. If you put a piece of paper inside the book, it's going to fall out inevitably. So I'm just not going to do that. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. And so LibriVox is any books that are in the public domain are read by volunteers. And those volunteers are in LibriVox posts the unabridged copies of these productions of audiobooks read by volunteers. And they're all books in the public domain, so they're all books that are 50 years or older. And I think you can now buy newer books on there, but the older books are free. And there's some really good authors on there too. Readers. The lady who reads all of the Jane Austen novels, I can't remember her name, but she's just perfect at it. You'll find it on LibriVox, and she's great. She sounds like what you would imagine Jane Austen would have sounded like. So yeah, those are the two ways I really changed everything about myself: meditation and reading books. So I recommend doing those two things. And also, I love book recommendations, and I've been trying to read through some of the recommendations that people left me in the last video that I did, and I really appreciate them. And the more Audible money I get, the more books I can I can buy. Because right now I'm seriously, like, I'm so broke right now. I need another job, but so please subscribe so I can get monetized through YouTube. But right now I'm just going through all the free books on Audibles, and there's so many other books that I want to buy, and I just can't afford them right now. So the more you guys subscribe to Audible or subscribe to this channel, the more books I can buy, and then the more information I can pass to you. So it's a win-win for everybody. just want to say thank you so much for all the comments that you guys have left, and the views, and the subscribers, and people who have joined the Facebook group. And I just want to say thank you. And, you know, work on yourself. And also I want to say, so one of my very favorite quotes of all time is something that really kind of changed my life. Was this guy, he said, and I think it's an old Chinese proverb. He said, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is 20 years ago or more. And when's the best time to plant a tree? Now. You do it now. If you're like 50 years old and you've never done anything with your life, I've made so much progress in like 2 years, to the point where I'm like, damn, the compounding effect is definitely true. And I think you can really just make huge, massive changes in your life with only like a little bit of a start. Like, it doesn't have to be that much. You don't have to go on a keto diet and run 10 miles a day. You know, you can just make your bed and meditate for 10 minutes and do that for like a month, and then try some other stuff. You know, like, it's just habits, and it's just changing your mentality. You're in charge of your brain, and you have to realize that, and you have to be able to change your pathways, and you have to be able to change your thought processes, you know, all the different things that lead you to be like, well, everybody hates me. Stop. Whatever like leads you to that thought, you have to catch that. And that's where meditation really helps you out. Being able to have some amount of control. If you can control your mind in some type of way, it's like unlocking something in your brain, and it's so helpful. So I hope you guys can do it. I hope I didn't offend anyone. Leave me a comment below. Like I said, I would love to know about your thoughts on meditation. If you have book recommendations, I really have been reading a lot of books on Buddhist meditation, and apparently what I've been reading is Tibetan Buddhist meditation. But just any books on meditation, I'm willing to read, and I really love them. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. If you guys have links to free audiobooks, link them below, and I will also link a few things down below as well. So check those out. Subscribe, like, comment, join the Facebook group if you want to. If you're a person who has avoidant personality disorder and you want to talk to other people about it, or you want to talk to me, I try to keep up on it. And like I said in a couple other videos, I have to have like a serious like energy. I have to have the right energy in order to respond to comments sometimes, because sometimes I just don't have it. Sometimes I'm just like, I can't do it, you know. And sorry I didn't make a video for a long time, but I was avoiding it. So I'll try to be a little bit more consistent. It's kind of hard, but I'm trying to get better at it. I will overcome. All right. Thanks for watching.